Hi, everyone. Thanks, Claire, for that promotion. I'm not head of Europe, but I do work at Salesforce. I do hope everyone's enjoying their time today, and it gives us immense pleasure to be part of this segment. Sport, live entertainment, fan, audience engagement, everything we've sort of been hearing over the last couple of hours is all about this, but we have a sport focus on this session now. Salesforce has been involved in sport. We work with a lot of sporting bodies for a long time, taking that global fan base of Formula One to a known, usable community. And so we work with a lot of sporting bodies and clubs to do so. But you don't want to hear about us. You probably want to hear about my panel's views, because they are the experts in this field. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce the panel. In no particular order, we have Elise Machia, who's the CEO of DAZN in Germany. We have Michael Markovic, Chief Commercial Officer at Sony Sports. We have Jonathan Leash, Managing Director of Sky Sports. And last but by no means least, we have Rory Price, Exec Director, Strategy and Transformation at the RFU. So thank you very much for joining me. So we've got about 30 minutes for this, and it's quite a broad subject. So the kind of topics and insight we're going to try and garner is around these areas. Where are we in fan engagement and audience engagement about sport, live sport and entertainment today? And in keeping with the theme of the conference, what are we going to see in the future? What's innovative and what's exciting? Particularly, where should brands be investing, given the growth of audience interest in new formats, and particularly, but not exclusively, the rise of women's sport, which appears to be doing everything right. Good viewing, good engagement, 300% increase in sponsorship year on year. Still a bit of a way to play catch up in that space against the men's. But most curiously, receiving only a seventh of the media coverage of the men's sports gets, which I thought that was an interesting stat. So I'm going to start actually with the broadcasters, start with Sky and DAZN, both leading innovators in fan experience, and then we'll see sort of where it takes us. Jonathan, Insights from Enders Analysis, published late last week, talks about the resilience of sport versus other genres. Sports viewing is practically flat, while the rest of TV has fallen by 26% since 2015. As sport has also increased its fair share of live viewing. So, whilst it could be the power of your tagline, it's only live once, in today's everything on demand world, how does Sky put fans first of its coverage of live sport?
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Congratulations on the promotion. I only see downside, unfortunately, in the next half hour, but we'll see how we go. So look, yeah, I enjoyed reading the Enders report, as Dana did. The line about resilience, it's something that we've believed in for a long time, for as long as Sky Sports has been going. And, you know, as the UK's premier home of live sport, we feel pretty good about that. We don't feel complacent, but we feel good. We're very focused on thinking about customers, thinking about choice, thinking about value. Dana mentioned the investment that we've made in rights to provide that certainty, whether that's the Premier League or the EFL partnership that's starting this summer. And we're going to continue to give customers more value and more choice, and a real focus on live. We're launching Sky Sports Plus in August, which is going to have 50% more live sports this year. So that's, again, excellent for our customers. And really, as we kind of go forward, what we're really thinking about as Sky Sports is how we tell those stories every day, how we tell the stories through live. Our vision, our ambition is to be entertaining, to be innovative, and to be inclusive as many sports fans as possible. And we go about that, and I hope people that have enjoyed our coverage have seen that in the F1 coverage, how we've really sort of taken that forward with the modernity, how we've evolved our storytelling through our new studio in Monday Night Football, and really how we're sort of broadening our audience appeal. Big focus on women's sports fans and a big focus on under 35s. And again, the audience and the resilience of sport is coming through in the numbers that we're getting. Last year, more people watched Sky Sports than ever before. We've had a great start this year as well with a kind of amazing story that had with the darts. We've seen record figures for the Super Bowl. We've just finished our most popular ever Premier League season. So the metrics are good. We're very, very focused. We really want to be strong for our partners. We believe in live, but we also believe in kind of that always-on narrative around that. And I think that's a big sort of unique selling point for Sky Sports. Sky Sports News tells the stories of sports all day long, and we supplement that with really sort of very effective and unique insights in our digital and social platforms. So we're big believers in live. We feel like we've got a good hand with the certainty that we're going to give customers and our partners, and we'll kind of continue to build that strategic moat.
Brilliant. We heard earlier that you can't monetize unless you have engagement. So I might pick up on what you were talking about a little bit there from social and pass to Alice. What does great fan audience engagement look like today? And how do you think the media industry, and particularly DAZN, is currently leveraging tech and data to do that?
So I think as a digital platform, I think we're big believers on bringing together traditional broadcasting and live events and engagement of fans. So from the conception, we've been always a fan-centric platform. And I think particularly in the last years and the last 18 months, we've released a lot of features like Fan Zone that allow fans to interact among themselves during the live streaming, and a few other things that have allowed us to engage live with a fan real time, and also to gamify the experience, innovating more and more how the live experience is. I think most recently, we have created an event, so as you know, when you're playing with traditional sport, it's great, but you also need to play by the rules. As that wasn't enough, I think we've created the Infinity League, which is a one-day event, is indoor football, cross-generations, cross-gender, where we've put technology at the center of it. So we've created a glass floor where the players and the clubs, the teams were playing with a lot of features activated by the clubs interacting, and at the same time the fans could vote to the platform when the Funino door could be opened, so basically the rules of the game were completely interactive. And I think that has been really the peak where we put together technology, physical technology, evolving more and more, and allowing not just a great fun experience live and on broadcasting, but also brands to create new brand experiences, and so investing, so with a very strong eye on monetization. At the same time, we brought in traditional football. Bayern Munich and Wolfsburg, for example, are between the clubs that have participated to this event. And at the same time, we're creating an online engagement with more and more fans interacting and influencing the way how the league would perform and would evolve during the day. So I think that's very important. So just to mention a few numbers. So we had 2 million reach. So it was two Sundays ago, Sunday afternoon, broadcasting globally. This is what we love about being a digital platform. We can take something that happens in Europe and we can broadcast it globally. We had a reach of 2 million, over 2 million across all our platforms. We distributed broadly across traditional television, traditional broadcasting, all our fast channels that we distribute across all platforms. We had 15 million customers engaging on social media, because we had a very strong social media presence, and we had 30 million impressions. So all in a Sunday afternoon, so just showing how using sports and what we know about sport, what is great about sport, the tradition of football, at the same time allowing technology to be at the center of it across the board, and letting fans interact with that, create unique events that then can kind of give us a vision about sport can be in the future and what fan engagement can be in the future.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I've seen it, and you shared those Instagram pictures. I absolutely love what you've done. It's a whole new way of looking at sport. Thanks for sharing that. I might go to Michael. Michael, in a previous life, was at the NFL, so knows a lot about global audiences and that kind of engagement you've just sort of described. But might pick up on your role at Sony Sports, actually. Like you, we work with lots of sporting bodies, media clubs, and outlets, and the recurring theme is doing digital is not enough. Sort of technology is an all-encompassing kind of strategy. What does technology partnering play in deepening and broadening fan engagement? How would you look at that?
Sure. Well, I think the first and foremost comment is it's critically important to embrace technology partners and really be a bit self-aware on, at Sony, you have so many different capabilities, so many different partnerships you can work on, but you can't do everything well, best in class, world class. And so you really have to be a bit self-aware on, we absolutely do this at our core and we do it better than anyone else, but then there's partners alongside of us that can work and be cohesive, and then you create something very, very positive, and in some cases positive disruptors. I think we're in a really unique time when both federations and within sports and clubs and also broadcasters and media partners, they're trying to push the envelope. They're trying to bring different content to the table because, as we say, the analogy is always, from a newspaper to going to digital, you don't want the same copy. You want something different. You want something unique. Same applies when you think about video content. So, the way we think about it is essentially, let's stick to our core and what we're doing, but then let's look at what other partners in technology space are doing things unique, different, and bringing an angle that isn't actually going to the traditional audience. It's bringing an audience that normally that NFL game or that other stream, even darts, which is actually very tribal and viral, bring people in that would never even think about it. And you do that by going to their platforms and their environments and things that we've done that have worked, play within Roblox, play within PlayStation, go to a complete different audience that happen upon sports because they're there for a different reason. And so we've seen a lot of success there. And so I think about it, and the success we've had is really, again, being a bit self-aware and saying, well, we do this really, really well. We want to partner with different media and federations in a strategic way, but let's bring in under the umbrella the different technologies that can really make that happen.
Yeah, Jonathan, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but how does that sort of sound when you work with a technology partner? Does that sort of sound like the right kind of approach? Is it sort of right up front in the origination?
I think partnership is key in all aspects of what we do at Sky, whether that's with the rights holders, whether that's with technology partners. It's who can help us move our story forward, who can help us tell a better story. And I kind of referenced it earlier, what we've done with the Monday Night Studio. There's a lot of technical innovation that's gone in there, but at its heart, it's about telling better stories for customers and really sort of unlocking insights. So, we're absolutely open for engagement. We work with yourselves, we work with lots of other people in the industry because we want to take our story forward. We're always thinking about how we want to evolve.
And just to share, I had the privilege of working with Jonathan in my NFL days, and again now
privilege is strong.
Privilege for me, yeah. Maybe not for you, Jonathan, but at the same time, it's one of those things where a technology provider effectively is a cost center. It's something that has to be a reason to spend on it, whether it be fan engagement, officiating, whatever it might be. And we need to turn that into revenue generation opportunities. We need to be bringing in new fans so that the likes of Sky, they know how to take care of their core fan base. Same with DAZN. How do we spread the ecosystem a little bit broader and really create a strategic relationship as opposed to us being just a perfect core vendor?
Brilliant. I'm going to change tack a little bit because we've got a voice from sport here, Rory. It'd be great to hear your perspectives. I'm going to sort of open up by saying, if you believe the press, and of course I do because many of them are here today, when Spotify negotiated their sponsorship of FC Barcelona, it became apparent that out of the 350 million fans around the world, just 1% had agreed for the club to access their name and phone number and email, which meant effectively a lot of money was left on the table. How does a sport like rugby think about organising itself around fans and those end-to-end experiences, both in a digital broadcast and also in situ at the stadium? Big question, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks everyone for having me along today. So I think rugby is in a state of flux a little bit with its data. So if we think traditionally, a sport like rugby, and I think other sports are similar, we would have looked at our fan base and we would have said, oh, okay, that works. We've got core fan base, they might over-index financially, they're willing to part with a decent chunk of money for tickets, they're willing to pay for broadcast, and they're typically a target market for a traditional sponsorship category. And it was really only when the data tidal wave started hitting sport that we went, oh, hang on, the younger fans aren't necessarily there engaging in the same way. And that's been so important. So the more that we've understood, the more you understand that across your fan base, there are different needs. It sounds obvious, but here we are. for us, then we saw that it was digital disruption and also, competing forces in the attention economy was changing what young people were looking to do. And it's such a critical age in sport. So I think there was some research done by Two Circles recently that said fans are made by the age of 14, and if they are, they're 50% more likely to be engaged in the long run and passionate. And if you use that as a proxy for lifetime value, it's really important for the health of the sport. So now all of a sudden we're sort of thinking quite differently about how do you service that range of that fan base, and data is at the heart of that. So we're investing in a big digital transformation. We're putting Salesforce in along with a couple of other platforms, and we want to have the capability to understand as much as possible what our fans need from us, and then the tools and the platforms to engage with them differently and to bring their journey in fandom into different areas. So it might be that broadcaster is there at the weekend, but we've actually got an offering midweek when they might not have a rugby game on at the same time. You mentioned live. So again, if I just sort of focus on how do we serve our younger fans, we are trying to make the mix between sport and entertainment. So, introducing live performances at halftime of some of our flagship games, which certainly raised a few eyebrows when we had Rag and Bone Man playing at the Ireland-England Six Nations game from some of our traditional spectators. But it's fair to say that post-game research showed that the young fans absolutely loved it. And then the final bit there for us when we think again about how are we engaging fans, it's the content. And so we look at younger audiences and we say, we know that they want to see those athletes being superstars. And that's quite challenging for rugby because one of our values has always been no one is greater than the team. And so actually we've got to change that if we want to speak to younger audiences. So we're doing a range of things that is allowing us to be a bit more tailored to the audience groups that we're looking at. And that young category is certainly an area that we've got a big focus on at the moment.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to sort of change tact a little bit and come back to you, Alice, if I may. What you talked about with the Infinity League was brilliant demonstration of convergence of tech, data, and experience. But where do you see the future innovation, with particular emphasis around sort of women's sport? How does it happen?
That's a very interesting question. I think that I would say women's sport and I think women's football is a venture, right? So it's a nascent part of our sport business. We have been investing heavily on women's sports. I think we're easily the biggest investor in women's football globally. We distribute Champions League everywhere. We have invested in many of the domestic rights for the first league and on the international leagues. And I think that that's something that we really believe at the Zone, that's part of the business innovation in sport. Obviously, we are a great fan of men's football, and it's a big part of our business. On the other side is a mature part of the business. So we are looking at women's sport, and particularly women's football, as a big development area. And as every venture, I think talking about innovation, we looked at it from a business perspective in an innovative way. We haven't we don't think that just applying the same playbook of business, business tactics and strategies that have brought men's football to the level where they are now would work. So for this reason, I think that, for example, we have put a big exposure of women's football. Most of our women's football is in front of the paywall globally. So I think that's very different as people think that in order to catch up, we need to copy and paste exactly the status where and the same way as men's sport delivered. We've made a big distribution through fast channels. So we out of our platform and distributed women's football there. I think particularly the Zone Rise, we started in Germany with our dedicated women's sport channel, particularly women's football. And I think that we launched a little bit more than 1 year ago, and it's been a biggest success from a brand perspective that we had in the DACH region. So fans are recognizing that, and institutions are recognizing that. So I think that we receive letters from dads and moms that finally find a place where to go to for their girls and boys to engage with women's sport. But we have adopted other, I would say, tactics. We are the broadcaster of Champions League in Germany, and we have a product called Conference, where we basically call all the contemporary concurrent matches on camera. And for once in December, there was a simultaneous Women's Champions League and Men's Champions League. So we basically called the Eintracht Frankfurt match from the Women's Champions League inside the conference of the men. And we achieved the 600,000 viewers, right? So it's a big milestone. And I think that that's what I want to say about women's sports, that just applying the same playbook that has brought a men's sport to the success is not going to work. Need to create at the same time, you need to play different rules, create places where is a dedicated area with specific branding and an area that everyone will recognize as women football. At the same time, you need to mix it up and put it together in front of the big audiences. The audiences don't come to you. You bring the product in where the big audiences are. And similarly, I think in terms of social media and engagement, I think that's back to the original point. I think that it's pretty clear that women football is easier, is more approachable. And when you look at their audiences are younger, obviously equally distributed in terms of men and women. So in case someone was thinking that women's sport is about women, I think that there are still more men that watch women football than women, but double women than in traditional sport and traditional football. And that they are more affluent, more educated. So when you look at this segment, it's clearly a leading segment, it's a driving segment in the society and as customers, as consumer of media. So we're very much investing in it, and I would say innovating, test and learning. I think that's also another big advantage of women's sport. As you were mentioning, is receiving more and more attention. When you look at it from a business perspective, the business, the slice of the cake is still pretty small. It means that you can dare to risk and to take innovation to levels where it wouldn't be probably acceptable with men's sport, and particularly with men's football. So I think that's the way we've been approaching. We're very happy with the outcomes and the results. I think our fans are very passionate about that, recognize that about us. And the Infinity League had the mixed teams. So 50% were men, 50% were women. And I think that nobody had so much fun as those athletes. And I'm talking about the national team athletes, both sides, FIFA World Cup winners, both sides, to engage in such an innovative league.
It's pretty encouraging, thank you. That's also very comprehensive. I'm glad the commitment's there. But it'd be remiss not to bring Jonathan in on this point on women's sport in particular, because Sky Sports in particular have been at the forefront of women's sport in the last 30 years, working with sporting bodies, associations and sponsors. What challenges have you had in building that that muscle and reputation in women's sport at Sky?
Look, I guess I'd probably prefer not to talk so much about challenge and talk more about the opportunity and throw it forward. It is a big priority, it has been a long priority with the biggest investors in the UK in sport. I think 70% of women's sport hours in the UK last year were on Sky. And we want to stand by that commitment. It's not a new thing, as you say. We've been multi-decade partnerships in cricket, in netball, in golf, some more recent partnerships like the WSL. And I think across our portfolio, it's perhaps, I think, only netball and NFL where we're not showing men's and women's versions of the sport. So there has been a real growth recently. We want to play our part in that, continue to play our part in that. I do think it needs a slightly different approach. I think the whole ecosystem has to come together and be perhaps a little bit open-minded, try some more things. So that's the rights holders, the clubs, brands, sponsors, broadcasters, and think about what it is that we can do together around distribution, what we can do about bringing brands together, how we can think about the in-stadium experience, how we think about promotion, marketing, access, all those things. We have tried different things as well, like with our WSL coverage, we've taken that to more widely distributed channels, and we're seeing the growth in the audience. So, we're absolutely there and we're absolutely committed. we do feel, again, we feel positive and optimistic about the growth, but perhaps the speed of the trajectory is not going to be quite what some people within the sport want, but we're absolutely there to stay the course and be part of it, as we've been for 30 years in the growth in sports generally.
Brilliant. Thank you. And I'm conscious of time, so I want to hear from from Rory, actually, from the RFU. Obviously, also a strong advocate of women's sport, and the Red Roses are going to win in 2025, I believe. How do you think about this changes working with sponsors partners in the future? Across broadening formats, possible channels, youth schools, regionally, globally. What's your take?
Yeah, sure, thanks. So I think the women's game for us has been an absolute blueprint of how we want to work in the future. So everyone has mentioned that kind of partnership element, and that's so critical for us. So we got together and we set a really collaborative strategy at the beginning of 4 or 5 years ago now, and it had an exciting aim in it. And the aim is a sold-out Twickenham Stadium with the Red Roses lifting the Rugby World Cup on home soil, with a legacy that's going to get us to 100,000 participants. And now, I think that sounds exciting. If it comes from someone who is more engaging than me, it sounds really exciting. So maybe, but it's allowed, partners to get behind it and almost tell their part of the story. And by partners, I mean, our sponsors, our broadcast partners, other rugby organisations as well. And I think there's a critical element in there as well, which is the players as the partners. And the Red Roses just do so much to amplify that. So they believe in the strategy, they want to see it delivered, and whether it's they stay behind after a game for an hour to build that fan base, signing little boys and girls autographs and everything, it's brilliant, or they put themselves out there. And it's that combination of the partnership that's allowed us to hit every single KPI on the way, so on the way to that vision. So we've tripled the number of attending games outside of Twickenham since 18-19. We've had 2 standalone games at Twickenham, both over 50,000. And as I said, what we're looking to do in 2025 with that end vision is what we're all sort of aiming for. So we want to use that kind of methodology there, which is set an exciting vision, set a collaborative strategy, and allow others to come and join in with what we're doing. And just the last thing I'll say is rugby is a bit different from other sports where you can't add more formats or add more games because we've got quite strict game limits due to player welfare. And so we have to work really hard to amplify what we have already. And you're seeing that with what we're looking to do with the Premiership at the moment, or what the kind of the global calendar is doing in the men's game. So rugby saying, well, actually, we've got to amplify what we're doing. And it's only through partnership with all of those people that I've mentioned that we can get there.
And Michael, just to sort of bring home this point about partnership, how does that change your model for how you interact with everyone through the value chain in sport?
Yeah, what's really reassuring is that a lot of things in our strategic plan have been actually mentioned by everyone on this panel, and in the acknowledgement that let's try something different. It's a different playbook, different blueprint, and also to be a bit ambitious and bold of set a target that maybe 5 years ago people were giving Rory a hard time about, or whatnot. Let's try to do something progressively different. And so that's honestly what we're trying to do. We're not trying to edge into traditional media. We're not trying to build products out of Sony Sports that's going to disrupt anything in those lucrative streams, and also the avid fan base, because we know federations, clubs, and media partners really know that base incredibly well. What we're trying to do is break new eggs and create new content, like Toy Story for the NFL, like other things we've done that can create lightning rod moments to bring in everyone before 14 years old, whether it be male or female. You really want to get to these fans that wouldn't have any interest whatsoever in a sport, but they start to build an affinity. And I can't tell you how many days of my NFL time was, I love NFL because of Madden. I love NFL because I randomly went to a game. The anecdotal reasons why you get into sport really can just be lifestyle. And so we're trying to create lifestyle moments and bring sport into a different context and environment.
Brilliant. I tried to play for Q&A. We don't have any Q&A time left, unfortunately, but it gives me great pleasure to thank everyone on this panel for your contributions.
Thank you for having us.